So we have 7 raw cat food recipes for you. They are complete and balanced, and they range from beginner, intermediate to advanced. And I'll have chapters below for each section. I'll also talk about where to buy ingredients and the meal prep supplies that I use. There's also a blog post that I have on my website where all of these recipes live. So in each recipe, I'm just going to put a screenshot of the actual recipe with all of the ingredients in ounces and grams instead of going through all of the numbers because that will take too long. So you can get a nutritional analysis with kcal information, guaranteed analysis, all of that information on my website. The link for that is in the description below. And I'll also put meal prep supplies, all of those links in the description. This video is not sponsored. So the first section of recipes, these are like beginner friendly, and I'm going to use Hare Today grinds. I've been a paying customer of Hare Today since 2019. Love the variety that they have. And 3 of their grinds are in the formulator that I used to make these recipes, which is called Animal Diet Formulator. Excuse me, Jericho. I need my notes. So the first recipe uses Hare Today's alpaca meat, bones, and organs and tripe grind. So for this recipe, you're going to use that mix plus some mussels, sardines, oysters, egg yolk, sunflower seeds, taurine because alpaca is lower in taurine, some nutritional yeast for B vitamins, sulfur chloride, and kelp for iodine. The next recipe is with whole carcass ground mouse, and you're just going to use that grind plus oysters and wheat germ oil. Very simple. The third recipe from Hare Today uses the rabbit meat, bones, and organs grind. And you're also going to use turkey thigh with the skin. That's going to add taurine because rabbit is lower in taurine. The skin is going to add some fat because rabbit is lean. And it's also going to balance out the bones because their rabbit grind is a little higher in bone content, so adding a little bit more meat is going to bring that down. Also, blue mussels, oysters, sardines, egg yolks, sunflower seeds, and kelp. If you want more Hare Today recipes, let me know in the comments which proteins you want to see because I can actually add their grinds to Paws of Prey Formulator. That's the one that I use now. Animal Diet Formulator is a subscription and you have to commit to 1 year. Too much. So I use Paws of Prey instead, and Hare Today has recipe reports from Animal Diet Formulator on their website. So I can take that information and put it into Paws of Prey and make other recipes for you. So actually today I added their duck meat, bones, and organs and their rabbit meat, bones, and organs because I was making Jericho's recipe with whole prey and all of that. So I can show you a video on that once I do it. But in the meantime, if you want me to add more Hare Today recipes to my website, just let me know in the comments which proteins. Okay, the next one is a beginner-friendly recipe using ingredients that you can get at your grocery store. And this is a boneless chicken recipe. So you're going to use chicken thigh and you're going to remove the bones. Some of the recipe you include the skin because the skin will add fat, and then some of it you won't use the skin. You're going to use chicken heart, chicken liver, blue mussels, sardines, egg yolk, oysters. A supplement for calcium, I have 2 different options on the website: wheat germ oil, nutritional yeast, salt, and dulse. The next beginner-friendly recipe is beef, and this one is suitable for kittens and adults. So beef heart, ground beef liver, oysters, sardines, blue mussels, sunflower seeds, bone meal, which is our calcium source since this is a boneless recipe, and it's poultry-free too, so that's why I'm using bone meal instead of eggshells. Nutritional yeast, salt, taurine, and kelp. So the next recipe is the intermediate recipe, and this one is raw boneless, but there are multiple proteins in the one recipe. So this one uses turkey thigh, chicken heart, ground beef, beef liver, beef kidney, sardines, blue mussels, oysters, sunflower seeds, nutritional yeast, eggshell powder, salt, and kelp. For our advanced recipe, this one includes raw meaty bones, and you're going to use chicken heart, chicken thigh, ground beef, chicken wings, beef liver, beef kidney, sardines, oysters, blue mussels, nutritional yeast, sunflower seeds, eggshell powder, salt, and kelp. And you do still use eggshell powder even though it includes bones because with the chicken bones, the chicken wings, they have phosphorus and calcium. So, and you don't want to add too much bone because then too much can cause constipation and you would still be adding more phosphorus. So you add a little bit of eggshell powder to balance that out so that there's, the calcium to phosphorus ratio is what's recommended. Now, I only recommend feeding bones to your cat if your cat does not have dental issues, and I would recommend starting with one of the other recipes first if you're brand new to DIY raw. And definitely what I would do is kind of chunk up the meat so that your cat is chewing on meat and then introduce the bones. That way your cat understands to chew, and when you offer the bones to your cat will be more likely to eat them. Okay, so now let's talk about where to buy ingredients. So a lot of these ingredients, Hare Today, you get the grinds on Hare Today. The heart, liver, and kidney, you can probably find that at your grocery store. If not, check your Asian market. Typically, you'll find those like the kidney and all of that at your Asian market. I can get all of these ingredients at my grocery store. For sardines, you can use sardines or salmon in each of the recipes. So if you wanted to use cooked from fresh salmon, raw salmon, or canned salmon, when you're using canned fish, canned sardines, or salmon, use canned in water with no salt added. So the brand that I use for Jericho is called Wild Planet. I buy this on iherb, but I have also seen it at my local grocery store. It's also on Amazon. For the blue mussels, these are cooked blue mussels. I get these at Lidl. This is the Lidl brand of blue mussels. The ingredients say Chilean mussels. So cooked Chilean mussels, that means that they are blue mussels, and that is in the frozen seafood section of the store. For the oysters, those are also cooked, and I got those at the Asian market. So I buy them. It's like maybe a 9-ounce pack, and it's like $5. Those are also cooked. So they say the ingredients are just cooked oysters and water. That's it. I haven't been able to find canned oysters that are in water with no salt added. So I used to use the canned smoked oysters in olive oil because they didn't add salt to it. But then I had a can of smoked salmon, and I kind of thought, I don't know if this smoky taste is right for our cats. So then I found the cooked frozen oysters at my Asian market, and that's what I've been using ever since. I know some people have asked, what if I rinse the canned oysters? Because that same brand that I used does have canned oysters in water, but they add salt. So what if I rinse it? I don't know if that would rinse out the sodium that gets soaked into the oysters. Because think about it, when you marinate meat, like the seasonings kind of like mesh with the meat. So I don't know, being in the can, I don't know if that would rinse off or not. And with sodium, it's a necessary mineral. It's one of the most important electrolytes. So sodium itself isn't bad, but too much sodium can cause diarrhea, at least in our experience. So the canned sardines that I use are 70 milligrams of sodium per 1 can. And I tried a different brand of sardines, and even though it said canned in water, no salt added, it still had double the amount of sodium. And when I used those, Jericho did get diarrhea. Switched back to the other ones with lower sodium, everything is fine. So just be mindful of that. Now for meal prep supplies, what I like to do is I use a large food grade silicone mat. This is the same mat that I feed Jericho on. I bought this on Chewy. And I like to use this because I put all of my supplies and all of the ingredients that I'm using on the mat, and that makes cleanup easy. It keeps my counter clean. If I drop a piece of food, it lands on the mat, I can still use it. You'll also need a digital scale, and I use glass containers that are freezer safe, and I got these at my local grocery store. I'll try to find something similar on Amazon just in case you don't have access. It isn't Pyrex, but it is Pyrex. It looks the same. It's glass, round glass container with a plastic lid. I do have a vacuum sealer, but it isn't necessary. I would say if you are prepping a lot of food, like I used to do 2 months worth of food for Jericho. So in that situation, then it does help to have the vacuum sealer because you save on freezer space. So I would say if you have multiple cats or you're prepping a lot of food or you just don't have freezer space, then vacuum sealer would be helpful. For that, definitely what I did was I put 1 week's of food in the bag, and I got the bags where you cut them and seal them yourself because then it's just easier to, you might need different amounts for different things. So, like with the oysters, the leftover oysters and blue mussels, I like that I can cut just a small amount because I only use 3 ounces per batch. So I cut a small amount and then vacuum seal those, whereas the pre-cut ones, it's only one size. So anyway, what I did was 1 week's of food, make it flat, and then put it in the freezer for a few hours so that it gets solid, all of the moisture becomes solid, and then vacuum seal it. Otherwise, you're going to suck out all the juices. It's not going to get a proper seal. So what I did was I stacked them and then let them freeze for a few hours, then vacuum sealed them. And when you make it flat like that, it holds the seal better, and then it's easier to thaw when it's time to make the food. I use nitrile gloves. I buy these at my local grocery store and, just to keep my hands clean because I'm touching whole prey and, all of the different foods. And then I use white vinegar to clean up afterwards. And then I take everything into the kitchen sink and just wash with hot soapy water. So basically for meal prep, what you're going to do is use the digital scale and like a dish. I use the dishes that I use for, his daily food. Put the dish on the scale, tear it out, and then weigh each of the individual ingredients. You can use a food processor to blend together the ingredients, all of the boneless ingredients. So that's what I did when I made food for my mom's 4 cats. That makes it super easy. You don't need an expensive meat grinder. If you already have a food processor, just use that. And I haven't used a blender, but I'm sure it might be the same because a lot of these boneless meats are pretty easy to blend up. If you were using gizzards, I would say that's a little different because they're quite chewy and rough. But all of these things are pretty mushy friendly, so I think a blender might work okay. If you've used a blender, let us know in the comments. So I also like to keep the liquid of the sardine can, and you also want to keep all of the liquids that come out of the meat when you thaw it. So save those, and then you can use that to kind of mix the supplements together. The reason we save the liquids is because some nutrients are water soluble, so it's going to come out into that moisture, that water that comes out when it thaws. So just set that aside, use that to mix all of the supplements together, and then add it to the food when you're blending it together. I also have a how much to feed your cat calculator on my website. So again, that one blog post, how to DIY your cat's raw food, that includes all of these recipes, instructions, meal prep video. This video will be on there. And there's also a link to my calculator on how much to feed. So you'll just plug in the information from the recipe reports, and then it'll tell you how much to feed your cat based on the number of kcal that your cat eats per day. Now, of course, it's going to vary based on how many cats that you have, but each recipe, it says how much that it makes. But again, it depends on how much you feed your cat and how many cats you have. Any questions, let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you're having a blessed day, and I will see you in the next video.